This week, week 3 is time management. And with the rollout of this program, we thought that this was a good place at this point to provide this element, this topic, this theme, if you will, because it is really important in regard to just balancing work, life, family, etc. So as part of the homework, it is doing some sort of maybe a time management technique that Isaac will kind of talk about again a little bit later. So yeah, this webinar, we have 9 different techniques that maybe you have heard of, maybe have used, maybe you even didn't know that it was called something and you are currently using it. So we'll go through those 9 techniques and kind of share little bits and pieces of those with you. And yeah, today I think we're going to try to keep it a little bit shorter webinar. So let's get into the content today. So many of us have probably said something like, I wish I had more time, or I'm so busy, or how can I add this into my current busy schedule? Maybe something like exercise or meal planning. I know I have said that last one more times than not, but managing our time is challenging, especially when you factor in all the facets of life. Like I said, work, hobbies, family responsibilities, maybe if you have children, the food aspect, making meals, eating, cleaning, getting in exercise, and it could be anything else. I know for myself, it's some of the like the hobby aspect, woodworking, some of those fun activities. So this is where the importance of time management comes into place. Being intentional with your time can help you decrease stress, maybe add exercise into your weekly routine, better manage meals, healthy eating, give you more control in your day-to-day. So good time management can lead to better productivity and enjoyment in certain activities or tasks. The one thing I want to leave with you before Isaac and I start sharing those 9 different time management techniques is the mindset or a mindset shift of the word, or utilizing the word compromise, not sacrifice, but compromise. Too often we maybe think that certain activities or tasks will have to be sacrificed in order to do other things that we want to do. But sacrifice has a kind of negative tone. When you use the word compromise, you can give yourself the chance to still maintain your activities and tasks, and just have that little more positive light to it by using that word compromise versus sacrifice. So for example, if you really want to try to get 30 minutes of exercise in each day, but you really enjoy maybe winding down in the evening, watching a few episodes of your favorite TV show or the latest TV show that you're really into, but you do recognize that a lot of your time is best, the time spent watching that TV show is a great opportunity for exercise. So can you make a personal compromise and devote 30 minutes of screen time to 30 minutes of exercise? Or at least exercise for 30 minutes while you watch your show. Again, making compromises with yourself in order to have a positive mindset and take control of your schedule, which will allow you to do the things that you love to do, like to do, need to do, and want to do. So compromise versus sacrifice. So getting into the 9 time management techniques here. So again, as you kind of listen and read through some of these, see if one of these might fit for you to try out this week for your homework. So the first one that I have for you is also known as the 80-20 rule, the Pareto analysis. So it's the idea that 20% of your actions are responsible for 80% of your outcomes. So the goal with the Pareto analysis is to help you prioritize tasks that are most effective at solving problems. So if you are someone who might be a problem solver or maybe an analytical thinker, this might be the technique for you to try. So the idea for how it works is you list some of the problems you are facing. The example that I found when researching the techniques is the idea of, let's say, a student, for example, and their grades are slipping. So the problem is their grades are slipping. Then number two is you identify the root cause of each problem. Maybe it's spending too much time on social media or playing too much video games in your dorm room, and that's why your grades are slipping. So then once you've identified those problems, you assign a score to each of those problems, and assigning a higher number to kind of the more important problems. And then group the problems together by cause, add up the score of each group, and then you take action, trying to kind of get back on track and again, solve your problems. So that is the Pareto analysis, or like I said, also known as the 80-20 rule. The Pomodoro technique. This one is more timer oriented, maybe kind of a one that is just typical. Set a timer, and that is the time that you are kind of allowing yourself to work on a task. So like it says, set a timer for maybe 25 minutes, and you really have to focus on the task at hand. Working diligently, trying not to be distracted by other things. And then once that timer ends, 25 minutes is up in this example, maybe on a piece of paper somewhere close, put a check mark down, some sort of tally indicating that you completed, that 25-minute cycle. Take a short break. Might be 3 to 5 minutes. Short walk, grab a cup of coffee, walk to the drinking fountain, just something to give your brain a break that's non-work related. And then you do the process again. Set a timer for 25 minutes, and you just go through that process until your task is completed. So this one's a great one for those who might be creative thinkers, or those who maybe feel burnt out at work. So again, with this technique, it doesn't just teach you time management, but it kind of also goes back to what we talked about with week one, or at least assist in the goal setting aspect. You'll be able to better stick to your daily schedule or your weekly schedule. The Eisenhower matrix. So for those that may have heard or listened to our wellness webinar, few months ago, we talked about productivity, and this was one that I specifically shared, the Eisenhower matrix. So with this one, if you've never seen it, heard of it before, I like to kind of call it a fancy like to-do list for those that like to write out like paper to-do list. I'm looking at my sheet to my left, but what's really neat about this is that your tasks, things that you are needing to do, wanting to do, are organized into 4 different quadrants. And it's really based on just 2 components, importance and urgency. So things that are important versus not important, and urgent versus not urgent. So urgent tasks are those that need to be done immediately. Important tasks are those that contribute to your long-term goals, values, or even just deep thinking. So as you can see on the matrix there, the first quadrant is the do first quadrant. So these are things that are important and urgent. So things like emails that need your immediate attention. So this is where you might list out some of those tasks that, again, are important and urgent. The second quadrant is the schedule quadrant. So these things are less urgent, but they are important. So exercise is one that is the greatest example of things that can be put or would be put in the quadrant 2, because they are important, but exercise isn't something that you have to do right now in this instance, but you would schedule it for later in the day, and again, make sure you do it. So people who live in quadrant 2 are considered some of the most productive people. And so Dwight D. Eisenhower, a past US president who kind of is recognized for this matrix, hence the name, the Eisenhower matrix. This is where he, as I've read, this is where he spent most of his time, is scheduling things and again, just living in that quadrant. But The other two ones is we're getting into not important and urgent, or not urgent and not important, the delegate and do. So the delegate one, and this is where the Eisenhower matrix is really good for those who are in leadership positions. If something is not really important, but has some urgency to it, if you can maybe delegate it to someone else and have them complete that task, great. The one, that final quadrant, things that are not urgent and not important. So things like maybe scrolling through social media, those are kind of items and tasks that just kind of waste your time, that don't contribute to your goals, your values, your deep thinking. So if it's something that you can put in that don't do category, don't do it. So again, people who are in leadership positions, or maybe people who are critical thinkers, might benefit from utilizing the Eisenhower matrix. And the last one I want to share is not really a time management technique, but it has a element of technique and strategy to it, and that's Parkinson's law. So the idea with this one is the amount of time you give yourself to complete a task is the amount of time it will take you to complete that task. So this one is great for people who are procrastinators, or even those people who work well under pressure. And this is one that I actually innately do, and I didn't know that I did this until I kind of went through, some of these strategies. So for myself, not perfect, but the aspect, the tip of setting a deadline, if I can set a deadline for myself and try to work to complete it by that time, then it gets done. And it's some of the best work sometimes that I've ever done, is when I'm kind of under that kind of pressure of a deadline. So other tips and kind of ideas of how this kind of Parkinson's law works, maybe try working without a computer charger. So the amount of charge that is on your laptop or your phone, whatever you might be working on, once it dies, you better be done with that task, essentially. So again, Parkinson's law. The amount of time you give yourself to complete a task is the amount of time it will take you to complete that task. So Isaac, please share the next 5, I believe you have.
Awesome. Thanks, Cal. Yeah, that one in particular, that leading the computer off the charger, that is something that I didn't realize was part of that law, and that's what I do at home as well. So good stuff here. So the time blocking method, Elon Musk is known for being productive. He manages his time using the time blocking method to allow himself to work over 80 hours a week and still have personal time. Not saying that we should be working anywhere close to 80 hours a week, but it does show how you can make time for all your top priorities, regardless of how busy you are. Process is pretty straightforward. You create a time block on a piece of paper or a document, spreadsheets, or since we're all Medtronic employees and contractors, Microsoft Outlooks create one for you within the app itself. A couple of things is just be sure to estimate how long a task will take, and then buffer times in between each block to allow for adjustments. This works best for working parents, working students, busy people, or just busy family schedules in general. And then for analytical thinkers as well. Personally, my partner and I use this method within our own family schedule. We like to call it our weekly rhythm rather than a time blocking or time schedule. Weekly rhythm just has a little more beauty flow to it, but it has allowed us to create a lot of time for ourselves to be able to do things that we prioritize the most for us individually and as a family. We currently have a busy schedule with my wife being a full-time graduate school student by night and a full-time stay-at-home mother with our 20-month-old baby. So time blocking has made it possible for us to look at a busy schedule with a different perspective. We see everything as manageable now and fulfilling rather than daunting. The next one here is the getting things done method. This was created by David Allen. And let me see, I lost my spot here. Yes. And it helps you get things done by recording tasks on a piece of paper and then breaking each one of them down into more actionable items. The GDT method follows the flow of capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage. So capturing all your tasks, regardless if they are work, school, or personal, clarify or decide what tasks are actionable and not, and then you organize and prioritize that list, and then reflect and review your actions frequently to keep your priorities in check. Crossing off what has been accomplished is always fulfilling. And personally, something I like to do is, like, if stuff comes up in the middle of the day that wasn't on that priority list, put it on the list and just cross it off right away once you've done that. Because at the end of the day, if you see, oh, I didn't get this one task done that I really wanted to do, you can also see, well, I did all these other tasks, so I feel pretty accomplished, even though I didn't get quite everything I wanted to do in that day. And then this is great for people, like, who it works best for is people who struggle to focus on one thing at a time. It creates a lot more focus within their projects. And then overall, people that feel overwhelmed in their daily lives. Maybe they're doing multiple projects at once. They have a busy family schedule, busy personal schedule, etc. That is the GDT method. And then our rapid planning method, or the RPM, was developed by Tony Robbins to help train your brain to focus on a vision of what you want to do to make it real. So there's a little more of a process with this method. So I will once again just go over the main points. If this is something you would like to do on your own, there's a link. The above link provides an actual template with examples that was laid out by Tony Robbins himself. Like the GDT method, you start with capturing and writing down all the tasks you need to accomplish. After that, you clump together your tasks by commonalities, whether they're family, personal, career focused. And then on a sheet, you make 3 columns: the task itself, the results you want, and the purpose of that task. And I really like the purpose portion of this because it helps you to reflect and remind yourself why you are doing this, and allowing you to stay focused on your overall goal or overall prize. It really keeps your eyes on the prize. And then the fun aspect of this is you create an empowering role for yourself. So the example there, if you're a student, and you can call yourself the study queen, or if you're creating a presentation, you call yourself the master creator or thunder maker, whatever you're doing for your profession that gives you some empowering and jazz it up a little bit. This also works best for working parents, working students, and people with long-term goals, because you're constantly being reminded as to why you are doing this and what is the purpose of each task. So it really keeps your eyes on the prize. The pickled jar theory. With this, you imagine a pickled jar full of sand, pebbles, and rocks. Sand are distractions. Pebbles are tasks that need to be done, but maybe a little bit lower on the list. And the rocks are the most important. And so you begin by thinking about how your tasks for the day would fit into the above categories. Then make a task list starting with the rocks and ending with the sand. Include an honest time estimate for each item, and try not to plan more than 6 hours of an 8-hour working day, because much like the time blocking method, this will leave time to buffer times for adjustments, i.e. Time for the pebbles and the sand. And this works great for people that are very visual learners and concrete thinkers. And then my personal favorite analogy, the eat that frog technique. Mark Twain: eat a live frog the first thing in the morning, and nothing worse will happen to you for the rest of the day. So put this into context a little bit more. Start your day by doing the most difficult or arduous tasks first, and then getting them out of the way. So eating that frog first. Start by asking yourself what you want to achieve the most. Write it down, set a deadline, and compile a list of things you need to do to achieve that goal. Prioritize the list, and most likely the most important items on that list are going to be the most difficult, aka the frogs. So visualize that nasty frog. You got to eat that one first, do that one first, and then repeat the cycle every day so that you're always doing something that will push you toward your goal. It works best for abstract thinkers and people with long-term goals, because you're always being reminded of that main goal by your list. Always working towards the main focus. So week 3 homework and our 5 minutes of fitness. So once again, 3 to 7 times a week exercising. You can pick anything, divide it into 3 different parts, that 30 minutes into 3 parts. And then for your homework of one of these 9 strategies, or maybe you have one that we didn't present over, try to pick one of those and experiment with it this week. Depending on what was speaking to you, which one you want to really try and focus on. And then our 5 minutes of fitness challenge, we are going to be doing push-ups. And in your Fit in 5 handbook, you'll see the format on how different variations of like a beginner for push-ups, an intermediate, and then more advanced push-ups as well. So I will go over the low impact, moderate impact, and the high impact versions of this as well. So I will adjust the screen as best I can. There we go. Perfect. Okay, and Kyle, offer feedback on how the camera looks here, okay? So the very first version of push-up that we're going to be doing this week is on the knees. So you're going to start on your knees. You can cross your feet behind you, and then you're going to go down. And I would recommend, I'm doing this on a yoga mat to help give me a little more support underneath my knees rather than like a hardwood floor or even just like a thin carpet. So just be mindful of like making sure there's not too much pressure on your knees by creating a little softer surface. So much like our planks, see how we kind of progressed up to push-ups to planks, we want to have your core tight, your abs tight, your glutes tight, and you don't want to be leaning forward or leaning close towards the floor, and you don't want to be overarching. You want your head, neck, and back all to be in line with each other. And then you're just going to go down towards the floor, bending your arms at about 90 degrees, and then pressing back up. Simple as that. Something for all these push-ups, switch up the width of your hands. So if you want to do more of a narrow push-up, you're going to be targeting more of your arms. The regular stance is kind of targeting both. And then if you do a wider grip, you're going to be targeting more of your chest. And so the on the toe push-up, we'll do the more moderate impact one. That's just simply bringing your knees off the ground and going from your toes. Just your basic push-up of what you might think of when you think of a push-up. This is the version that you would be doing. 90 degrees. And then the fun one, the more advanced version, is the plyo one. If you have wrist issues, this may not be the greatest one to do, but it's one to give a shot if you want. And that is adding more of an impact to it. So you're going down towards the floor and then pressing up quickly, letting your hands come off the floor with each repetition. There you go. So keeping your core engaged, glutes engaged, nice flat back. Maybe even switching up the width of your hands for that as well.
Very good. Yeah,
No.
one other note when it comes to the push-ups, for those that are absolutely cannot maybe do kneeling, the low impact one, standing, and maybe putting your hands on the corner of a countertop. So that way you are elevated on your feet, but you have kind of less of gravity in your body weight to kind of oppose your movement. So it becomes a little bit easier. Again, a great alternative if you cannot do the kneeling variety of push-ups. So yeah, up on your toes, kind of leaning against like a countertop, an elevated surface, if you will.